Most of my clients are waiting for the right things to happen before they start to change, or waiting before they put an addiction behind them before they start creating the life that they want, or waiting to go 30 days clean before they start dating, or all these different things. They want to wait. And so today we're going to talk about the reasons why you shouldn't wait and why you can start now to create the life that you've always wanted, despite porn being in your life. Hey, you guys, before we dive in, I have a free community that you can join through the description down below. I'm currently working on a 12-week program that you'll have total access to for free. And so that's going to be released in a couple of weeks. So join the community down below and you'll be notified when that bad boy is ready. And if you also want to schedule a free consultation with me, you can also do that through the link down below. Anyway, back to the show. So if you've heard, or maybe that's even you, who say, like, I just need to wait for porn to be out of my life before I can start doing X, Y, or Z. Or I'll wait for the perfect time to even start putting pornography behind me, right? That's something called conditional living. You're waiting for the right condition before you start living. And sure, like, I think you could make arguments where that could be helpful at times. For the most part, though, when you're able to break that script, when you flip that upside down and you have unconditional living, unk living, you know what I'm saying? You can really start to be free, to feel free, despite what's going on in your life, despite if you're dealing with pornography or any other addiction or any other hardship in your life. If you have unconditional living, you don't have to wait until you go through something before you actually start to live. And so in my therapy sessions with clients, I think this is honestly one of the things that I see the most is conditional living. People have to wait, or they feel like they have to wait before they can actually start doing the things that they want. And so today we're going to talk about four main things. We'll talk about why the use of addiction or why we use an addiction as a convenient excuse, the paradox of delaying your life until you're cured, how taking action actually accelerates your recovery, and practical steps to start building your life today, struggle and all. So first we need to talk about why most people use addiction to begin with, and why it's used as this maybe scapegoat, if you want to call it that, when it comes to like starting the things that you actually want to do in life. So obviously we've talked a lot about like coping, right? And using pornography to cope. I don't think that's news to you. But we can use that as a scapegoat or a defense mechanism for things like fear or fear of failure, fear of rejection. So like you could say things like, well, I just have to wait until I'm 60 days free of porn before I really dive deep into creating or starting this business that I want to. Or if I don't start the business, I can't fail. And I have a great reason not to start the business, my addiction. You know, I need to put all my effort towards the addiction before I start putting effort towards to the business or to my relationship or to school, or, you know, put that to whatever you want. And then that brings us into this state of like a worthiness or a shame spiral where you think like, oh, like I'm damaged goods, right? I have this addiction, I have this struggle, so I don't deserve success, love, or progress to begin with. So I need to wait until I start feeling better. I need to wait until I'm 60 days free, and then maybe, you know, my worth will start to climb that ladder, and I'll feel like I'm more put together and be able to actually go out there and pursue the things that I want. So our shame like somehow convinces us that isolation and inactivity is our like form of punishment, or this holding zone that we have to be in before we actually go out and find success, right? Or to be and start to create a good relationship, because heaven forbid, like you can't be in a progressing relationship or even a relationship at all if you're trying to overcome an addiction or trying to change habits, because you're broken goods, right? That's wrong, by the way. But now that brings us to this paradox at this point, because waiting is just going to make things harder for you when it comes to overall recovery, right? Because if you clear everything out for porn or for porn recovery, right? You create this vacuum in a sense. There's nothing else but recovery. But focusing on your streak or whatever it is that you want. You take porn out of your life without filling your life with things like purpose, goals, excitement, and you leave this massive void that needs to be filled. And so if you only focus on this journey of healing and recovery and that's all you do, your brain is going to naturally start to default back to pornography because your life's not exciting. It's boring. It's stagnant. It's not fulfilling. And so making sure that you actually fill your life with other things while at the same time working on your healing and your recovery. And we'll get to that here in just a second. Your overall self-esteem doesn't just come from a day counter. And we've talked about that, right? Like it doesn't come from this idea that, oh, like I'm 90 days free, I'm 90 days sober. So now my self-esteem is higher. I'm actually worth something now. Yay. Self-esteem and feeling like your worth is 100% and that you are enough comes from keeping promises to yourself in other areas of your life, like fitness, like your career, like creative projects, like your family. And if your worth was 100%, if you were actually enough as you are now, what would you do? How would your life be different? Would you feel like you have to wait to go out and do things that you want? Do you feel like you'd have to put everything else on pause until pornography is put behind you? Or would it be different? Would you feel like, despite you going through struggles, despite you dealing with an addiction right now, despite having slip-ups every now and again, your worth is still 100%. You are enough. And you're not going to let porn stop you. You're not going to let these habits that you're trying to change prevent you from living the life that you want. Or at least trying to change the habits and create the life that you want. So you have to start creating this identity shift. Okay, there's something called dual tracks. You can look at one of these tracks being recovery, healing, all the good things, right, from pornography. You then have another track that's running directly parallel with this track of recovery and healing that is everything that has to do with your life goals. So things like your career, relationships, hobbies, personal growth. That can go on at the same time as the track of recovery and healing. They're not on top of each other, or you don't have to completely stop track 2 before you finish track 1, or until you finish track 1, right? They can both run and be active in your life at the same time. And so with that being said, you can start to change your identity. You are no longer this porn addict trying to get clean so you can live. You are living so you can put pornography behind you for good. You're now an ambitious person building a great life, who happens to be working through changing habits, who happens to be putting things behind you and creating a life that you want and getting rid of the old one. You see how big of a difference that makes? Like, for real, that's huge, dude. Just that perspective change. Both things can be true at once. You can be living and creating an amazing life while at the same time you work on recovery, you work on yourself, you work on putting pornography behind you for good. And track 2 is only going to benefit track 1 and vice versa. The more that you work on yourself through recovery and healing, the stronger, the better, the more accelerated track 2 is going to be. So they go hand in hand. And so please don't feel like you have to pause one or the other. They can all work at the same time. So here's some actionable steps for you. Okay, step 1. I want you to write down 3 things, just 3, that you've been delaying until you're fixed or have a long streak, right? So if there's something that you've been putting off and saying, well, once I get to this point in my recovery, then I'll start X, Y, or Z, something that you've always wanted to do. So write down 3 of those things. And then I want you to choose one. Choose one of those, one delayed goal or thing, and take a tiny micro action today. Something that you can do to start to work towards that goal, to help you start to realize that you can create the life that you want, while at the same time start changing habits and putting pornography behind you. So if you've been thinking about applying to a new job, or signing up for a class, or someone you've been meaning to reach out to, just choose something and take a small step to start to achieve it. And then start to reframe your lapses or your slips, your relapses and setbacks, right? If you slip up, that doesn't mean these goals, that doesn't mean track 2 is now paused. That doesn't mean you have to stop it. You don't, because a slip up or a relapse is just part of track 1, and that'll take care of itself. You're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. You don't have to pause track 2. In fact, at times when you focus on track 2 and continue to keep it moving, that will only help track 1 and keep it moving when it starts to slow down. So if there's one thing you take away from this episode, just know that perfection is not the price of admission to a fulfilling life. You're allowed to build your empire, pursue love, chase dreams while you're still a work in progress. In fact, that is what life is about. Everybody has these 2 tracks, regardless of being an addict or not. The tracks just look different. Don't fall into this trap of conditional living. Know that you can live your life no matter what's happening. Start to adapt or adopt this idea of unconditional living. And I think that you'll start to see that maybe you have been holding yourself back a little more, or you haven't been doing the things that you've always wanted because of things like pornography, when in reality, you don't need to let that happen. You have your 2 tracks, and now go and live. Thank you guys so much for listening. Namaste. I'll talk to you next week.